Welcome back. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating explainer of Said Nursi's 23rd Flash. Also known as the Treatise on Nature, this text presents a rigorous, full-on philosophical challenge to naturalistic atheism. It essentially treats the existence of the universe like a high-stakes courtroom trial, systematically cross-examining every possible suspect for how things came to be. So, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the four paths of existence, then tear down the first three: blind causes, self-formation, and nature as creator, using Nursi's famous 9 impossibilities. After that, we'll dive into the logic of divine unity, and finally wrap things up with a bit of reflection on why this totally shifts how we see the universe. Section 1. The four paths of existence. The whole thing kicks off with a really simple, undeniable premise. Beings exist, right? And they don't just exist, they're constantly being renewed in these unbelievably complex and artistic ways. Because of this, Nursi argues that reason leaves us with exactly 4 definitive multiple-choice options for how this creation happens. Those 4 options are: 1. Material causes come together to create things. 2. Things just form themselves. 3. Nature necessitates and creates them. Or 4. Everything is created by the power of one all-powerful creator. The strategy here is pure process of elimination. If we can mathematically and logically prove those first 3 paths are impossible, well, path 4, the path of divine unity, has to be the truth. Section 2. Path 1. Blind causes. Let's interrogate our first suspect, or what the text considers a false path. This is the idea that blind material causes just happen to collide and create life. To test this theory, the text gives us a pretty incredible visual metaphor. Picture a massive pharmacy packed with hundreds of jars of different chemical substances. We need to make a highly specific, life-giving potion. It needs absolutely precise, varying ounces, like 1 ounce from this jar, exactly 3 from that one, maybe 7 from another. If you're off by even a microscopic drop, the whole thing loses its magic. Now, imagine a sudden gust of wind blows through, knocks over all those jars, and by pure unbelievable luck, spills the exact precise amounts to mix a perfect cure. Honestly, what are the odds? Exactly. And this brilliantly illustrates the first impossibility. If you wouldn't buy the idea of a random gust of wind perfectly mixing a magic potion in a pharmacy, why on earth would you believe that the infinitely more complex, vital substances of life on Earth were just jumbled together by blind, streaming floods of natural causes? Ascribing the precise, perfectly measured scales of life to blind chance is, as Nursi points out, a senseless absurdity. And the logic goes even deeper. Take a tiny fly, for instance. A fly's body is literally connected to most elements in the entire universe. It's like a microscopic summary of the whole shebang. Now think about the physical rules of cause and effect. Causes require physical proximity to their effects. So if that fly isn't made by a single creator who commands things from afar, then all the massive material elements of the universe would physically have to cram into a microscopic cell on the fly's eye to build it. They'd have to squeeze in there and somehow work together like a master architect. Under this framework, that scenario is logically impossible. Section 3. Path 2. Self-formation. All right, moving on to our second path, the claim that complex beings somehow just form themselves out of their own basic particles. Basically, the matter inside you just decided to become you. Think about what that actually means. For particles to act completely on their own without a higher command, they'd need an insane amount of knowledge. One single unconscious particle floating around in your eye would need to know your entire past, your future, where all your nutrients come from, and exactly how you relate to the rest of the universe. You'd literally have to ascribe the genius of 1,000 Platos to a single blind particle. No way. Let's look at it like a palace. The text compares your body to this magnificent, 1,000-domed palace where the stones hang in suspension, constantly renewing themselves in perfect balance. If those particles aren't being directed by one master architect, then every single particle must magically be the absolute master over all the others, while at the exact same time being absolutely subordinate to them. Every stone ruling and obeying every other stone simultaneously. Nursi presents this as a massive, blatant contradiction. Section 4. Path 3. Nature as creator. This brings us to the third path, which is honestly probably the most common assumption today. People constantly say, oh, nature made this, without really stopping to think about what that implies. There's this beautiful analogy used in the text about the sun. Imagine millions of tiny glass fragments and little water droplets scattered on the ground, all perfectly reflecting the sun. If you completely deny that there is one single sun up in the sky casting those reflections, You're forced into believing that every single tiny piece of glass actually contains its own physical, infinitely powerful sun. Following that exact same logic, if you deny a single creator, you have to believe that every handful of mindless soil contains microscopic, infinite factories capable of designing and building thousands of completely different, highly complex flowers. It just doesn't add up. To drive this home, Nursey gives us the metaphor of a savage walking into a stunning, highly civilized palace. He doesn't know the first thing about architecture, so he's looking around trying to figure out who built it. He spots a notebook sitting on a table that contains all the architectural plans and the rules of the palace. Out of pure ignorance, he declares, "Aha! This notebook built the palace." He assumes an unconscious book of rules possesses the actual physical power to build a building. But that is exactly what people are doing when they say nature is the creator. Nature is just the notebook. It is the collection of immaterial laws, the index of art, the screen. A rule book cannot be the rule maker. A law of gravity doesn't have literal hands to pull things down. It's just the description of how things work. So the takeaway here is simple logic. A passive law cannot possibly possess creative power. Section 5. The logic of divine unity. All right, so having systematically argued that those three alternative paths, causes, self-formation, and nature, are mathematically and logically impossible, the text lands securely at the fourth path, Tawhid, or divine unity, creation by one all-powerful creator. Now let's see how this creates a framework of infinite ease versus impossible difficulty. Think about an army. If one king is equipping a massive army from one central headquarters using one set of laws, it's incredibly easy, right? But if you disconnect that soldier from the king and rely on multiple independent causes, equipping just one single soldier suddenly requires building 1,000 different factories, one for his boots, one for his rations, one for his weapons. Attributing creation to the single one of unity makes equipping an entire universe as easy as equipping a single fly. To really hit the nail on the head regarding this ease versus impossibility, ask yourself this. Is it easier for an author to just pick up a pen and write a book directly, or is it easier for them to invent an impossibly complex microscopic writing machine hidden inside the fibers of the paper, the pen, and the ink, and then expect that unconscious machine to just write the masterpiece all by itself? Giving creation directly to God is presented as infinitely more logical and easier than assuming he built magical, independent creation machines inside unconscious atoms. Now, because everything is so purposely created, Nursey argues our relationship to the Creator is absolutely crucial. The text explains that if the universe is like a massive tree, conscious human worship is its ultimate fruit. Therefore, in this view, abandoning worship isn't just a personal failing. It's actually a denial of the purpose of all beings, and an act of aggression against divine wisdom and the rights of the entire universe, which exists entirely to glorify its maker. Section 6. Conclusion and reflection. By organizing the universe's logic into this definitive multiple-choice structure, the 23rd Flash completely strips naturalistic atheism of its rational foundation. Nursey concludes that once you really, truly examine the microscopic requirements of life and the absolute perfection of balance in the world, acknowledging a single, all-powerful creator is literally the only logically sound conclusion left on the table. We really hope this explainer of the 23rd Flash has given you a fresh lens to view the world through. So, the next time you look at a tiny fly, a complex flower, or even just think about the laws of gravity, ask yourself, are you looking at the random output of a blind notebook, or the deliberate masterpiece of a single, unifying architect? Keep learning, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.